Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about ways you can use your study in Canada to remain in Canada and eventually apply for permanent residency. So to start us off with that, we'll pass it to Hugh. You can help us talk about ways to stay in Canada after you graduate.
Sure. As an international student in Canada, once they complete their school program, some eligible students can apply for a postgraduate work permit. So you have to graduate from a school that is designated by RICC, and you can actually go on the RICC webpage and then see all the eligible, So the minimum length of the program that you need to complete is 8 months. So if you finish the 8-month program, you're gonna get a postgraduate work permit valid for 8 months. But if you finish a program for 2 years or longer, you will be able to get 3-year postgraduate work permit. It's an open work permit, so you can get any kind of job and work for any employer located anywhere in Canada.
But a good point to make is that not every designated school will result in a post-grad work permit.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between a program or school that's eligible for a work permit and one that's not? Would you be able to tell us?
Usually we work with public schools that are eligible, but we have to check the course, or of course not just the length, because especially if private schools, so most public schools are eligible and just a few of private schools are eligible, and that happens more with private schools, that certain courses are eligible but others no. I don't know if that responds to your question or...
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the main difference is public versus private schools. Most public schools are eligible, but for private schools, only degree programs can be eligible for a PGWP.
Okay. So you have to make sure that the program that you want to take is going to make you eligible for the postgraduate work permit before they start. Otherwise, students could waste their whole time in Canada and later find that out they will not be able to get the work permit.
I wouldn't say they waste the time, because they learn something. But of course, if their ultimate goal is stay after they finish school, then yes. So we have to plan beforehand and give them all the information that it's actually part of our work. So we select course in colleges or universities that is aligned to the client's goals. And after that, of course, they have to apply. They have a time limit, so they have to follow the deadline. There is other aspects during the course they have to respect. They have to take the course all the time, cannot be part-time. Just the time is they have to be full-time at the school to be eligible, and they cannot have any blank. So they have to be studying all the time here in Canada, so they cannot have any gap in their school time.
Okay. How about Craig? So when the main applicant, obviously, who's applying for the postgraduate work permit, so their spouse, can they still maintain their status in Canada and work?
So at the time they apply, the principal applicant, so the person who was a student, at the time they graduate, they want to apply for a post-grad work permit. The spouse of that person can only apply for their own work permit if the main applicant can prove they're working in a skilled job. So just applying for an open work permit doesn't make the spouse also eligible for a work permit.
Okay. So there any kind of useful or helpful information for the main applicant and the spouse that are in this kind of situation? Maybe possibly before applying for the work permit, the main applicant gets, they make sure they have a skilled job or something like that?
Yes, that can work. So even though technically the spouse is supposed to show that the principal applicant is already working and has pay slips and an employment letter and their work permits, oftentimes applicants apply for their postgrad work permit and their spouse's work permit in the same application with additional proof that the principal applicant is already working in a skilled job. So that includes basically an employment letter showing that their skill level is NOC 0A or B, and then pay slips if they have them.
I see.
And they're allowed to continue working after study as long as they have applied for the postgrad work permit. So there is actually a period between graduating, finishing school, and applying for the postgrad work permit where they're not supposed to work. But many people don't know this, and they continue working up until they receive their postgrad work permit.
Okay. So thank you for the information, Craig. And often we find clients, study permit clients, but also like family. How about their children then? Like, how can they maintain their status in Canada?
Well, children is gonna get status normally. So usually if it's they are younger, they're not gonna get a student permit.
Okay.
But once they are here with their parents, they can be enrolled on the public schools without any problem. Just need to see their parents' status in Canada. Older kids, I think after 16, 17 years old, they're gonna get a student permit and to be enrolled to study here. So once they are here with status, they can join public schools. They can most of the time pay for tuition as local if it's necessary. Some schools have a different approach, so we cannot guarantee it's 100%, but most of the time is that what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that like many public schools actually offer free education for local domestic students, and children of study permit holders will be treated as the same as a domestic student and can save a lot of money for their tuition.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. That's another benefit of considering studying in Canada with the whole family.
It's also worth mentioning that dependent child, as defined by IRCC, is under 22. So it's possible to still be a dependent child even on to university level. Okay,
that's good. So we just covered like how international students can work in Canada even after graduation. Craig, would you please tell us about options of immigrating to Canada after the graduation?
Sure. So after graduating, some immigration programs, usually through a provincial nominee program at PNP, there are some streams that require graduation from a Canadian school. Some of them only require graduation from a Canadian school. So simply graduating could make them eligible for a program. Most of the time, though, they do need a job offer from a Canadian employer in the province of the PNP stream to be eligible. But if they have a postgrad work permit, they can start working for a Canadian employer, get work experience. If it's skilled, they can move on to express entry, which is the main skilled worker immigration system, and optionally apply through a provincial PNP system if they have a job offer from their employer to continue working in that province.
So in which situations would you recommend clients to go through the PNP process? Because I know PNP, if they go through PNP process, it takes additional time rather than, or as opposed to just applying through express entry. So which situations,
Yeah, so that's a very good question, because adding PNP adds time, money. You have to apply for each PNP application if you're invited to apply. But in a situation where a candidate for express entry wouldn't have enough points to apply only in express entry, for example, if the invitation scores are at about 450 and their score is too low, maybe much too low, maybe 350, if there's no chance they'll get an invitation in express entry only, at that point it would be better to go through a PNP stream to add 600 points with a nomination from that stream. So with a nomination from a province, it essentially guarantees that they will get an invitation in express entry.
Okay. Also, as I work for in the GBPI, so people frequently ask us a question like about AIPP, Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program. So once those students have their postgraduate work permit and gain work experience, would they be eligible to apply for AIPP as well?
Yes, AIPP could be an excellent way for someone to immigrate to one of the Atlantic provinces. It has very low basic requirements. It does require at least 1 year of work experience in the same job being offered. It does have a low skill option as well, so even a semi-skilled position in NOC-C could be eligible for that program.
I see. So I guess to sum up, probably applicants with like sort of higher qualifications with a good score on their express entry profile, then probably the regular EE way is going to be the quickest and most efficient way for them to achieve their PR or obtain their PR. But if their score is lower, then they could consider PNP or AIPP as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think if we can summarize, or there is a principle behind everything. So Canada choose to select the most adaptable candidates. So if you can prove that you study here or you work here, you still can contribute for Canadian economy and society, you have a great chance to be invited to immigrate and to stay here permanently. This is one of the advantages of have this first stage as student. So you're gonna have a taste of life in Canada. So how you're gonna adapt to life here, and if you really can contribute for society.
Okay.
That's an excellent point, and it reminds me to say that all of the economic immigration programs in Canada are designed to benefit the country, not the applicant.
Exactly.
So if a potential immigrant says it's not fair, the scores are too high, it's that way because Canada is looking for high quality candidates. It's not to benefit the immigrants.
Yeah.
As unfortunate or as cruel as that may sound.
No, it's sometimes I know, but it's life, and Canada has its own interests. But there is many ways that a candidate can prepare he or herself, his or herself, to offer more.
Yeah.
So sometimes, okay, you want to immigrate to Canada, but your English is not that good, or your French is not that good. So put some effort, put some time, study, and get better on that specific skill. And it happens sometimes. So you need a better professional qualification. Try to find a course here that's gonna give you that boost in your professional skills. So we can help a candidate to figure out what would be the best option. So there is other things that we cannot overcome. So age or whatever, that is certain aspects that we cannot overcome. But of course you can overlook and assess your profile to tell you exactly what do you think as professionals from immigration. You can say, okay, you can try this, but it's not gonna work on the long run. So you can study here, maybe, but if you want to stay, it's not gonna work for you. That maybe this other program would fit you better. So we are here for that.
Sure. I mean, I think during the pandemic, the score for the express entry has been, steadily low. As far as my understanding goes, once they graduate from a Canadian educational institution, work for the Canadian employer for 1 year and get like CLB6 or CLB7 in their IELTS score, luckily they've been able to get their invitation and get their PR. And also earlier this year, Canada had that special program to retain all the turned workers in Canada, right? And how many invitations or quotas were there at the time? 40,000
for TR to PR?
Yes.
Yeah, it was 40,000 for each separate program. So I think in total more than 100,000.
Yeah, and also we all know how aggressively Canada is trying to bring more immigrants into the country to like solve the labor shortage problem. So I saw an article a few days ago, like Canada has been able to bring more immigrants in the last 3 months, but then they still have a long way to go for the remaining 3 months of 2021. And then I know RCC, they have a goal of like bringing 1 million immigrants, over 1 million immigrants for the next
3 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think there are many opportunities for the international students. They can, study, learn a lot of things, and then get their Canadian PR status. Yeah.
Sure, definitely.
Yes.
Canada is open for immigration.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
So with all of that said, I think we've made a few good points that study in Canada could be a very great way to be able to eventually immigrate to Canada. It may be a bit of an expensive option for long term, but in the end it might be the best way to immigrate.
Hi guys, thank you very much for watching the video. If you have any questions, just send us an email in this address here and we're going to assist you.